Hi, Jim Evans. Welcome to Loose Change. Still available on vinyl. It is, right?
8-track.
That as well. We're keeping it current. Thanks for joining us. We have a great show for you. Really looking forward to talking with our guest. We'll do that in just a few moments, and a great guest for sure. But what's been going on? Greg, as always, I'm at home, laying on the couch, dozing it out, TV's on, and I come out of the haze and I see what I think is a science show about the moon. They're just showing these giant craters. Then I look closer, it's just a news video of the potholes and the roads around Southern Park Mall. Have you seen these things? Man, you got to watch your step or where you're driving. One pothole was so big they had a kiosk in it. They're selling jewelry or cell phones or something. I don't know. Last show I mentioned, of course, that I got another car after a lengthy search finally. And man, it's been fun to drive. But reality is now setting in. After a second glance at my monthly payment, here's my reaction. Good thing it's fun to drive. That was an early morning picture of me, by the way. So, what else is going on? Just got tax time behind us, and that's been working out for me okay in recent years because my chiropractor, as it turns out, is also an accountant on the side. So I go in, we double down, he takes care of my back taxes. That's what he does. Just had the NFL draft. The Steelers, they take care of business as they always do. They have a Steelers draft. For the Browns, it was different this year because they finally had a lot of picks after the Bill Cosby or the Deshaun Watson fiasco. They got Shadur Sanders in the 5th round, but that was the story of the draft. For the Browns, though, it was imperative with that many picks that they get as many outstanding players, outstanding people with no outstanding warrants. So hopefully that's the case, but time will tell, I suppose. Greg, I'm at home watching baseball the other day, and made me think about how unique baseball is in itself. Like, the guy comes up to bat, and he has his own walk-up song. And I was thinking, well, if I was playing right now, what would my walk-up song be? Might be like this. I can hear the PA announcer, now batting, Jim. No, you got to be kidding me. Get this guy out of here. We have to have somebody else. Come on. So, we just had Earth Day to observe, and my family does that every year. We have a big dinner at the family member's house, and then a celebration afterwards. And this year, well, that got a little out of hand. We have a lot of pies at our Earth Day celebration. And this might be a rumor, I don't know. I read this about Snoop Dogg, who's out there a lot now today. He might be starting his own TV show where he would go into the city and restore homes. It'll be called This Old Crack House. Hey, stick around. Cornel Bogdan joins us next here on Loose Change. Now batting, Greg Roten.
Supercharge your internet. Only Zoom Extreme from Armstrong combines unlimited data with whole home Wi-Fi at the fastest speeds possible. Zoom Extreme from Armstrong.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Evans, and I have the great privilege to be joined by the host of Counterpoint, A Musician's Tale, and many more. The one, the only, Cornel Bogdan is in the house with us. Thanks so much for coming in, man. Really appreciate it. Great to see you.
Weird. This is Jim. Thank you, man. I have been a part of the interview thing for a long time, but to be the interviewee, it's like very strange, man.
Honestly, but it'll be fine. What we like to have our victims or our guests do off the top. For those who don't know you, most everybody around here does. Yep. But where are you from, and where you went to school, and how your career path took shape?
I was a North Lima boy. Yep. Went to South Range. I've been in the area, most of my life. Left for just a couple of years to do the radio thing, and I was a diehard Elvis Presley fan when I was really young, And I'm like, okay, there is something about this dude that girls really like, and
a little bit,
yeah. And I was so involved in sports, just like you, and so learning a musical instrument or any of that kind of stuff was not part of the whole thing. So everybody said I had a really good face for radio and a decent voice, so that's the route I went, But I love the area, man.
What was your first radio job?
I was working. I started a station at Youngstown State University called the Underground Sound.
Yes,
and
right.
I was one of the founding members of it. And at around the same time, there was a really cool station in Hermitage, Pennsylvania called Z96.
Yes. Yeah.
And they were just kind of getting started. And someone said, hey, I know they're looking for people. You should go over there. And I walked in with my demo tape. And when I was walking up the stairs to the studios, a guy was walking down. And I could tell the guy was kind of pissed, and I'm walking up. And I get to the top. And this guy by the name of Eric Davis, I don't know what his real name was, but he said, what are you here for? And I said, I'm looking for a job. And he goes, can you start tonight at midnight? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so I was the person who would load on the tapes back in the day, for the overnight thing that was running. And my claim to fame would be I'd open up the microphone once an hour at the top of the hour and say, Z96, Perfect FM here in Hermitage, Pennsylvania, whatever it was. And I'd have all my friends listening.
Yep.
This was before cell phones, and that was it, because you had to get it down pat at that top of the hour. And you'd babysit tapes, and and I could go into the studio production room and play with my voice and create stuff. And next thing I knew, I was a couple of classes I was taking at YSU. I was basically nothing against Youngstown State. I love Youngstown, but I was teaching a couple of them. At I think it was 17 going on 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you moved on. Well, you were 106.
Yeah, we started CD 106
Yes.
in 1988. I got a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Dominic Barragona,
Yeah, I know that name.
and another guy by the name of Gary Zoccolo.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we're starting a rock station, and you have to be a part of it. And so I was taking a little bit of hiatus from radio, and when I heard rock and when I heard, what their whole vision was, I jumped on board, man.
Sure.
And so it was me and Gary Z and Fast Freddie Woke and Casey Malone, and we were the originals.
Yeah. Right.
And we put CD 106, The Wolf, on the air, and I'll tell you, Jim, that was the greatest time in radio, man. We had an absolute blast. We were a little 3,000 watt station out of Niles, Ohio, and the ratings that we had back in the day, no one will ever touch them again. I mean that. No one will ever touch what we did, and we became an institution.
That was the best time, though, in radio.
Oh, yeah,
it really was.
It was a blast.
Different beast now, but
yeah, right.
It really was.
Yeah, it was. You got to have way too much fun. Way
and get paid.
Way too much fun.
And to get paid.
Yeah, and how we answered the bell on a daily basis. But it was seriously, Jim. It was one for all for one. Yeah. We did everything as we were like a 10, 15-headed monster. Mm-hmm. And you saw that wolf emblem everywhere in Youngstown and everything.
Yes,
and
for sure.
Bumper stickers and painted on the side of buildings and T-shirts and
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, right. It was guerrilla warfare. We didn't have a big budget, but we all were young. And what do you need us to do?
Yeah.
And Dominic, God rest his soul, he taught me so much about the business. And he was one of my mentors, and we would walk through a wall for that guy.
Yeah. And with that, there was a lot of involvement with live events, right? You guys were all over with that.
Well, that's what I learned that from Dominic.
Yeah, right.
we started off, we were the first ones who did the Canfield Scaregrounds.
Yep.
And, you know, he says... It's
still going, too.
And it's still going. And he said, you should get into the haunt business. And so me and Dominic, and, you know, I didn't have a dime to my name, and we went and bought a warehouse in downtown Sharon, Pennsylvania, and he gave me the payment book, and we started Ghoul Mansion, you know? Yeah. And we did the Mahoning Valley rib burn-offs, which were just ungodly. We did that for many, many years, and bikini contests and calendar girls and bands and ribs, and you know, it was seriously, it was just a great time.
What a terrible job he had. How did you make it through all that?
Yeah, it was really, really tough, you know, but it's such a great time.
But on from there, then, you know, to Clear Channel. Is that how it went? Next step?
Dominic was WN Broadcasting, and then a company called J-Core purchased WN, and they asked me to stay on board, and I did. And then J-Core became Clear Channel, and Clear Channel asked me to stay on board, and they did. And then Clear Channel became iHeartRadio, and they asked me to stay on board, and I did. And, you know, it's been a great ride, man.
And now
I'm with
Cumulus.
Yeah, now I'm with Cumulus Radio. We have the big three, which are, you know, K105 and Y103 and WHOT. That's what we call them, the big three, because they are highly rated and highly listened to.
You know, and you know, when I came back from out of town, where I was for a couple of years, and hooked up with Clear Channel. And you were general sales, salesman.
Right. In charge of the sales team. I was in charge of CD 106 at the time, which became 93. I was in charge of, just to show you how things go full circle, that first job that you were asking me about, Z96, well, that became 95.9 FM and WAKZ. And so I went from starting there to, you know, all the changes in radio. I ended up managing it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just really weird, this business, how things change, and the more they change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
You know?
And the competitors, all of a sudden, you're working together.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Overnight.
And next thing you know, everybody's like, who was on different teams are all on the same team.
Right.
One thing I will say, and I'm going to preface this by saying more people are listening to radio today than ever before. It's a misnomer when people think that radio has kind of went down the totem pole. It's just that people listen to radio in different ways now. There's no more Radio Shack. Can you believe that? You know?
Or you can't get batteries anymore.
Exactly. And they want to know your address.
Right, exactly.
You know, it sounds like a Seinfeld, you know, why does Radio Shack ask for your address and your phone number? But, you know, where do you buy stereo equipment besides eBay nowadays or, you know, whatever? But the cell phone is brought the whole country together. I host a show on Sunday nights called Tangled Up in Blues. And I have requests from, Youngstown, Warren, Niles, but Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Sacramento, California, and, you know, Macon, Georgia, and Austin, Texas. It's crazy, you know, how you used to open up the microphone and you were talking to your friends in a certain area, and now you better get it right, because there are folks that are listening to you throughout the entire country. Right. And that's what I mean about the fact that radio will never go away. It will never go away. It's just listened to in a different way, you know?
The inner structure has changed, but you're right. It's still out there.
You know, just like any business, I guess there is that cutting of the fat, trimming of the fat. There is downsizing, all of that kind of stuff. But it's in every business. Do I like it? No.
Right.
You know, do I like when, you know, maybe somebody moves on or whatever? No, I don't. But I'm at a place, and we were talking before we started, I'm at a place that I'm really happy that I'm at a corporation that still believes in live local talent.
Yes.
And it means a lot, man. It means the world.
Totally.
You know?
You know, you mentioned about, you know, having listeners, you know, different parts of the country. And
Yep.
we're doing ball games. You know, I'm doing still with iHeart.
Yeah.
And if people listen to games now, I have relatives and friends, North Carolina, out in Arizona.
Give me a shout out.
Listen to ball games.
And they could never have done it before.
Right, exactly.
You know?
So.
And even when you're listening to big sports events, you know, you listen to a Guardians game or you listen to a Cavs game, and they're doing shout outs to people that are listening everywhere.
Yeah.
You know? So I am one of those folks that, radio has really, really changed. A lot of the stuff that we were doing at CD 106, we'd be taken out in handcuffs now. You know, it wasn't always politically correct. It was never politically correct. But I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that too. We made it, you know. But when you open up the microphone, there are so many people that are listening to you. And if you don't believe me, just make a mistake. And they're going to call you out on it. Sure. Or you pronounce one of those guys in a high school game, you pronounce their name wrong, every aunt and uncle from South Dakota are getting a hold of you. You know, so
he's right.
That's what I love about it.
Sure.
The bigger the world gets, radio still has a way of bringing it together.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
Yep.
We're going to take a break. We'll do that and come right back with Cornel Bogdan right after this.
The Armstrong Neighborhood Channel is your home for sports, community events, and award-winning shows from all of our Armstrong neighborhoods. Check your local listings or tune to Channel 100 to see what's happening in your backyard. Everything local lives on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.
Welcome back with Cornel Bogdan. I'm Jim Evans, and you know, we could talk for an hour and a half here, but this is our second segment, so we'll see what we can squeeze in here. But,
Greg has a way of stretching things over there.
But you know, your show here, and when I get a chance to watch, it's always interesting, entertaining, and I really enjoy watching Counterpoint
and ditto,
Musician
man.
Tale. What's that experience been like for you?
When Greg contacted me a while ago about doing a music show, and it was all his idea, I'm like, you know, I got the face for radio, dude, you know, and he goes, I know this can really become something, and I've been in radio for a long time. I've won awards in TV, which is just blows my mind.
Don't undersell yourself.
So. It just blows my mind. And the other thing that, you know, me and Greg have done is I feel that we have taken some artists to levels, and I'm not saying it's because of what we do on the show, but we have taken a lot of artists to levels that they weren't at the time we were started with them. And
I'm sure.
We have Grammy Award winners now. We have major touring artists, major music sellers. We try to, you know, get some regional people in there too. Right. But we run a show that I did with Michael Stanley, and Michael, I've known him for, I miss that man so much. Yeah. 2 or 3 days before he passed away, he wasn't taking any phone calls. He was having a lot of trouble, you know, talking and everything. And his phone rang and his daughter answered it, and she says, my dad wants to talk to you, you know. But we brought in Michael to a place that is now defunct in downtown Struthers, the Cellar. And we had a studio audience, and I can't even remember what year it was. That's how long we've been doing it. But I still have people that say, I've recorded it, I watch it all the time. It's the comments on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you know what it's like. You know when you do a show and everything comes out the way you wanted it, because it doesn't always happen that way, you know.
But it's just like having maybe a great golf swing by accident.
Yeah, it's like, wow, I just birdied that. You know, that's not going to happen again, you know.
But all the people you've had a chance to meet through that and become friends with, that's really something. You have to really feel great about that.
You know, friends I can actually say, people like, Joe Bonamassa, who's been on our show, I think 4 times or something.
What a performer.
And Samantha Fish, who was just tearing it up. Larkin Poe, nobody knew who Larkin Poe was. And what was it, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I get a text from Rebecca and Larkin Poe and said, Cornel, thank you. We just won a Grammy. They were at the Grammy Awards, and they get a text from somebody that I saw playing on the streets in Nashville,
Wow.
and they're Grammy Award winners. And it kind of gives me chills, man. It's like, and people that you have looked up to all your life, and you find out that they're just like me and you, man. And they want to take care of their families. They got the same kind of problems. Some just have more zeros after it, but we're basically, in the words of Buddy Guy, everybody is skin deep. Everybody's the same underneath, man.
No doubt, for sure. I've had a chance to catch your show with Ray.
On the Boom Boom Room.
Thursdays. That's really entertaining.
Yeah, Ray is a character. And,
yes, he is.
And, I've been friends, just like you, with Ray. I've been friends with Ray he was one of my first radio guests back in the days of Z96. And this is, when he was the person, the athlete, one of the highest paid. A lot of folks don't realize this. In 85 and 1986 both, Ray Mancini was either number 2 or number 3 on a list of highest paid athletes.
In the world.
In the world.
Yes, right.
In the world.
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And from Youngstown, Ohio, and he's never forgot his roots. And I'd call up Ray and, hey, Ray, I want to go to see Evander Holyfield and, whatever fight. And, next thing I know, for like 10 fights, I would have press privileges from the locker room to the ring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing here? How did this happen? I was at the Riddick Bowe Holyfield fight when the glider came into the ring. I was there when Tyson bit his ear.
Wow,
I was in Atlantic City when he basically was losing on every card against George Foreman, and he came back and won that fight. What a warrior, man! And Ray is always brings something to the table, man. You got time for a quick Ray story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so. It's come out about one of my addictions, which is Bob Dylan.
I was going to get to that, but
okay. And Ray is probably the only person in the United States that can honestly say he has punched Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan has punched him back. Bob has a gym in Santa Monica, California. He keeps everything underneath wraps. Ray tells me it's the nicest gym he's ever been in his life. Okay, and it's right behind a coffee shop that also Bob owns. Okay. And so they would, Bob, believe it or not, loves boxing, and he loves to spar. It's how he stays in shape. So he got in the ring with Ray, and and they did that for a while. So let's fast forward many years later, and Ray's sons and kids are friends with Bob's grandkids in California. So they have a really good relationship. So anyway, Bob's in Youngstown, and Ray can't get a ticket. He can't get a ticket. He called down the venue, and they're like, they're gone, Ray. There's nothing. And he can't go through the record labels. Ray's lost. I said, Ray, my brother's going with me. One of his friends can't go. You want to go?
There you go.
And here we are. I got really good seats. And so we go to the show, and the show was great. We're leaving. And it's me and my wife and Ray and my brother, and we're walking, and they gave me parking right behind the place, and we're walking, and I see this guy walking over, and I'm like, I recognize him, and it's Bob's head of security, and I'm never one of these guys that go, I need to meet, I don't, they got other things to worry about, So he comes walking over, and I go, hey, and he goes, radio dude. And I haven't seen him in years. And I said, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to give his name because he keeps it confidential. And I'm like, how you been? I'm like, I got Ray Mancini with me. And, Ray and Bob have a relationship. And, they haven't seen each other in a few years. And he goes, just hang on. Let me see what kind of mood Bob is in. So he walks away, and we're standing there, and we're, you know, talking to folks who are leaving the show and whatever. And he comes back, and he goes, "Come on." And I'm like, oh my God, Bob Dylan doesn't meet anybody, you know? And so we're walking to the bus, and there's Bob's bus, and we're standing outside, and Bob's person who handles his wardrobe and all the stuff, she comes down and she goes like this to Ray, and so Ray goes on the bus, and I'm standing outside the bus, and me and his security bodyguard are talking, and we're just touching base, and everything is beautiful, and you know, there's 128 shows and all this, and Ray's on the bus, and next thing I know, the bus door opens up, Ray comes off, and the bus starts and heads down the road. And Ray looks at me and goes, "I am so sorry. I took up too much time. I should have," making all of these excuses, like left and right. I'm like, "Ray, how did you get here? Who did you, you know?" And that's my latest Ray Mancini story. So Ray, if you're watching, and I know you are, thank you, man. But yeah, so it doesn't matter. You saw Bob Dylan 128 times, not when Ray Mancini's in the house, you know.
128 times. What makes him the best for you?
Oh, he's not the best live performer. You know, he's
what
not,
is about him?
Yeah, but I just know that when you're going to go there, there is going to be some sort of chaos. You know, nothing against bands like Journey, REO Speedwagon, they're all great. You know, but I worry when folks say, "I went to the Journey concert and they sounded just like the album." Well, just listen to the album. You know,
I want something different too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
I want something different.
Right.
And whether you like him or you don't, Bob Dylan is always going to give you something different every time I've seen him. I went through the gospel years with him. I went through, you know, shows with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I went shows with the Grateful Dead. I went to a show one time. He kept his hoodie up. He had sunglasses on, and basically he sang with almost his back to the audience. You know, you know, I hear it all the time, like, well, he doesn't talk to the audience. I also heard from folks over the years that, well, that person talks too much, you know? So making the general public happy is not part of his thing. Yeah. And I just go to, like, what's it going to be tonight? Mm-hmm. You know? In Youngstown, he started a song, Watching the River Flow, and they did the song, and then they went into another one. And I don't know if it was an age thing or whatever, or he didn't like the way it sounded. So 2 or 3 songs later, they did it again.
Wow.
No,
you don't ever see that.
You know, and he looked at his bass player, Tony Gagne, who is the band leader, and they were doing that song again. So if you look at the set, what is different about Youngstown that'll make it on the Bob Dylan archives? Well, he did the same song twice, you know, and he put a little. But yeah, that's what I love about him. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, and like I said, we could go on and on. But of course, we can catch you right here on Armstrong with
my man
Counterpoint, and you still Tangled Up in Blues.
Tangled Up in Blues, and
that's Sunday. Still Sunday nights?
Yeah, Sunday nights 7 to 10. And the biggest thing is when you go into Cavelli Center, and the person that tells you to put the juice box away, that's me. You know, I cannot believe the amount of folks that'll say, "Cornel, I understand the knives and the grenades. Why the juice boxes?" You know, all I'm doing is reading the scripts. You know, so
everything must go.
Yeah.
Hey, it was great to see you.
Nice
Thank you so much
man.
for coming in.
Keep it going, Jim. Keep it going, man.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Cornel Bogdan. We'll be right back after this.
Supercharge your internet. Only Zoom Extreme from Armstrong combines unlimited data with whole home Wi-Fi at the fastest speeds possible. Zoom Extreme from Armstrong.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thanks so much to Cornel Bogdan for his time. It was great seeing him and talking with him. And hopefully, Greg, we can maybe have him in again in the not too distant future. I want to take a moment to pass along our condolences to the family of longtime WKBN radio producer John Sheckelhoff, who recently left us much too young and won't be forgotten. Great guy. The best to all of them. Thanks as always to Greg Roten and all of you for checking us out. We'll look for you next time right here on Loose Change. You want me to leave?